You worked so hard planning your essay. You built it like a city. It had skyscrapers and windows and a tower. You put in a parking garage. You even put in the cars. And then you started to write. And it was like, oh no, you ruined it. Because you used very bad words. I've read literally millions of essays, and I've developed a list of the bad words that can destroy your essays. I'll share them with you and how to avoid them after the jump. This might be one of my life's greatest understatements, but writing can be hard. Sometimes writing can seem like walking through a minefield. There's all kinds of mistakes you can make. You might confuse homonyms or homophones, or words that sound the same, but mean different things. For example, loose and lose, or compliment and compliment. You might misuse words that sound similar but have different meanings, like affect and effect, or allude and elude. You could use multi-word phrases when one word would do. You might write, due to the fact that Licky ate an orange, he wasn't hungry for breakfast, when you could just say, because Licky ate an orange, he wasn't hungry for breakfast. Or in order to accomplish, instead of just to accomplish, or two words with similar meanings, like encouraging and inspiring. And if you do that, you should just pick one. But I'm not even talking about any of these mistakes. What I'm talking about are the bad word choices that can make your writing unclear before it even gets started. So here's my list of bad words. To start, there's bad words that are simply vague adjectives, like the word bad itself. Words like bad, big, good, great, hard, large, sort of, totally, and very are words that might be tempting for you to use as you're writing, but they're totally wide open. For example, if you go to Word Hippo, which is my favorite site to help find the word I'm looking for and use the word bad, you'll come up with all kinds of different meanings of the word bad before you even get to honing in on the exact word that you want. Bad can mean of poor quality, having faults or errors, damaged, lacking competency, having a harmful effect, and so on and so on and so on. The exact word you might be thinking of might be of poor quality, but then you've got different words that mean that, like terrible, awful, dreadful, lousy, poor, atrocious, cheap, crummy, etc. These words are what are called synonyms, but they don't mean the same thing. You need to spend the time looking at the meanings of words and finding the exact word you're looking for in order to be clear about what you're trying to communicate in your essay. I didn't mention the word literally when I went through this list of words because I've got a whole separate video on this, but basically you should try to never use the word literally unless it's unclear whether you mean literally or figuratively. More on that later. Very, which I've already mentioned, is also on my second list of bad words because very is a qualifier or an intensifier. If you think bad doesn't sound smart enough, you're going to be tempted to write very bad, but that does not help you because very bad is just as vague as bad. So whenever you want to write extra, extremely, literally, because a lot of times you're going to try to use literally as a qualifier or intensifier, really, sort of, or totally, instead of doing that, go back to your synonyms and try to find the exact word you're looking for. It doesn't help you to look for a synonym for the word very. Instead, try to find one word that can mean what you mean by very bad. This will help your writing become a lot more clear right away. Today's helper is the Licky boy. He has been helping all day on the floor here. I have never seen somebody who is so good as helping as the Licky boy. If you like kittens who like to lay around and have stretchy, then I hope you'll like this video. My third list of bad words has to do with framing quotations. In framing quotations, it's necessary to first write who is saying the thing that you're quoting, and then you need a verb. Go with a descriptive verb. Verbs like talks about and says are both informal and they're vague. States sounds better, but it's vague. Instead, Look for a verb that positions the quotation within the argument of what that author is trying to do. Words like suggests, claims, refutes, supports, warns, etc. are excellent. Lucky for you, I have a separate video on how to use quotations. Yes! You can find it on the Zubify YouTube page. Yes! My fourth list isn't really so much a list as it's a tip. It's a list of types of words you should avoid, which are idioms, expressions, informal language, and colloquialisms. Informal language and colloquialisms are very similar. That's when you use a word that you might use in conversation with your friends in a formal essay and it's inappropriate. One of the most common words I'm coming across right now in essays is the word majorly, which I think you're trying to use in order to say very, but it's informal and it's vague. So stay away from these informal words. You also want to avoid expressions like see eye to eye or comes across as, because these are vague and their meanings are unclear. See eye to eye can mean be in close agreement with, or it can mean in general agreement with. Instead of writing these expressions, use literal language, which leads me to my fifth tip, which is that you should never use figurative language when you're trying to analyze figurative language. For example, one of my very smart students once wrote, "When Patrick Henry says, 'Our chains are forged, their clanking may be heard on the plains of Boston,' he brings to light how the colonists are being held by Britain so tightly that the restraint almost feels like chains." She's not wrong, but in using figurative language to analyze figurative language, she's using a bad strategy, because figurative language in itself is meant to communicate emotion. It's not meant to be analytical. The figurative language is in the phrases brings delight and being held so tightly, and restraint almost feels like change. If she wanted to write this literally, she might say, he implies the British rule reduces his white ruling class audience to the position of the enslaved, creating the fear and outrage that will motivate them to fight for independence. Can you see how this writing is just much more clear in terms of what Henry is trying to achieve? This is why literal language is much more effective in analysis than figurative language. If you find yourself using figurative language a lot in your analysis, it might mean that you yourself are unclear in what you're trying to communicate and just need to think about it a little more. Are there other word choices or strategies that you're just not sure about? Write them in the comments below. I'll reply and let you know what I think, and if I don't think they're good choices, I'll help you come up with another choice. Writing can be complicated, and even if you are an expert writer like me, you'll probably never think that your writing is perfect. But avoiding these bad words and bad strategies will take your writing a long way toward excellence and make it much more clear and precise. I hope this video improves your writing. Thanks for watching Zubify. Come back for more Zubify.